Welcome everybody. Next vodcast from Jamie, myself and the gang. It looks like we are actually going to get out and have a shot next week. How do you fancy that?
Yeah, looking forward to it actually. Yeah, I'm starting to get a little bit of I've been out, I must admit, I've sneaked out a couple of times, but yeah, it'd be nice to go and shoot a registered shoot. And so we're booked into Richards on Thursday, is that correct?
Yeah, we're booked down there Thursday afternoon. What do you mean you've been out a couple of times? You haven't told me anything about that.
And I went down to my private ski out down the road.
Oh.
Did you see that on Instagram?
No, strangely enough.
I love a word because
me not having shot a clay since I got back from Zimbabwe. You've been snaking off again.
Yeah, absolutely, exactly. It's called social distancing. I go somewhere and you don't. In fact, I've got one.
Practice that.
I've got one of these. I've got one of these in the back of your ski vest. But mine's like that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, look, it's all pretty exciting that we're going to get out and have a shot. The other thing that is of note is that competitions are now back as from Saturday the 6th, I think.
Yeah.
And obviously social distancing has to be adhered to, but it seems like the practice rounds, certainly that we're running at EJ Churchill's, and I know that Steve Lovett's been running some sort of structured practice, however you want to call it, and Richard's been running some at Ours Lodge, as I'm sure a lot of other people have been running it, and I think that probably the fact that people are turning up and just shooting one ground and they're not chasing off to two or three is actually helping the fact that they're staying well apart, and it's I think they're actually enjoying their shooting. I know that there's been a big break from it, but and the squad system is obviously working fairly well. I don't know what you've heard with regards to it.
Yeah, I think it's squad to, obviously we'll be squad to 5. The 6th person being the referee, and obviously we're all going to be still sort of sensible with 2 metre social distancing, etc. So, but listen, beggars can't be choosers. Are fantastic that we've got that. I mean, if you honestly think probably 5 or 6 weeks ago, none of us were even thinking that we were going to pick up a gun through the competition for the rest of the year. So to be back early part of June. It's quite exciting, really. I mean, we've missed a lot of shooting, and we know that we're not going to get back those shoots, and we're probably not going to do anything abroad. But hey, listen, we could be still in lockdown, and we could be, in an all sort of completely different scenario. So yeah, for me, any bit of shooting that we can do safely is going to be good, and I think the squadding thing's going to work well as well. I can't see why it shouldn't.
No, absolutely, and let's hope we don't. By the fact that we've had such good weather and people have been out everywhere, let's hope we don't get a second spike on it. It's you're quite right in what we say. We've got to get out. I hope everybody's taking it sensibly, and we want to get back. I wasn't expecting to shoot any competitions before July, so to get back in June on a somewhat restricted basis is brilliant. I don't know whether there's much Saturday, Sunday competitions going on. Is there anything around us?
Well, nothing that's been. I had a little sneak, but I don't think that anything's been. I think everyone's sort of seeing how it all works out on the bigger grounds, seeing how it exactly works, and then I see Churchill's are starting to do 2 registers per month, first and third Sunday of the month, Thursday, sorry. Which is going to be fantastic, especially if you can go there late and shoot as well. Yeah. Richard, he has his, I think he has 2 registered shoots a month from Sport Trap and Sporting. So it's not going to be long before the others are going to follow, and Sundays, and people are going to, the shooting ground's going to need that revenue, so they're going to open up. People will go to places that are open, and it gives us hope that obviously, proves that the system is going to work, and it does work from what we've heard. That we're going to be able to shoot a few bigger shoots, and obviously the British Open is going to looks like that's going to go ahead, you know, which is going to be fantastic, albeit maybe slightly smaller squads. I'm sure the CPSA are working on that.
Yeah. Well, look, you know, we just got to still maintain staying safe and get out of this mess the sooner we can, really. But you know, we probably wouldn't have been doing any of this had it not been for COVID-19 and the fact that we've been in lockdown. But having said that, I've certainly enjoyed doing this, and I know you've enjoyed it, and most of the guests we've had on have enjoyed it, and it seems that the viewers are enjoying it as well. So as part of that, we're going to continue to do it as long as it's wanted. And as part of that, we've come up with a bit of an idea where we'd like to get some interaction from the people outside. And we think it's quite a good idea to send in your questions rather than just sitting at a keyboard and typing them, to get some interaction with the show and get your face on the show and be able to have some form of interaction. We're going to give some space up for video questions, and there should now be an email address appearing on the bottom of the screen that if people take down and video their questions on their phone or whatever device they want to use and email them to that address, we will endeavour to get those questions on the show, and I will, with your help, endeavour to answer them, which should be a bit of fun. And you know, it's something that we want to continue and look to build on, and I think that the people are watching it, are interacting with it, and the more questions I can answer and help out within the sport, then so be it.
Absolutely, and your questions can be anything. You want to hear some stories? If you want to, you've got questions for George, you've got questions for opinions on other shooters. I mean, it was great to have Richard on the other day. That was really informative and really interesting to listen to him. Did it bring back memories of double track for you?
Yeah, I didn't sleep for 2 days.
I didn't think he would pop it. Poor boy.
Luckily, I've got over it now because I know I'm shooting with you on Thursday.
But no, seriously, if anybody, you've got questions, gun fit, you've got any technical problems, all of that sort of thing you want to ask George, don't be shy to ask. Send us a video on, and then you won't have a better opportunity to get some free advice and and have some fun.
Definitely. And talking of free advice and having some fun, we are now going to just run a little video, and in running a little video on Perazzi, and I've got a feeling the final of the World English is on there, and a few bits and pieces. And then we're very fortunate to have Tim Hill joining us, and we're going to have a little chat and see where Perazzi is.
So going back with the Perazzi, obviously got Tim coming on. I know you guys are going to have a chat. How long have you been with Perazzi
now? 20 years.
Wow. That's a long time.
Yeah, 20
years. Through that
started in 2000, and it's been an amazing journey. The family has been absolutely fantastic. For me, when I left Cayman, I wanted to leave Cayman, and still feel as though I had the ability to be able to win anywhere in the world, shooting any discipline, and for me, one of the big things with Perazzi was the backup, and Cayman was a fantastic gun, and I shot it for 5 years and I achieved a huge amount with it, but because it wasn't a worldwide gun, You know, if you went to a foreign country and it broke down, the actual reality of getting it fixed or being able to get it fixed within that competition was almost, you know, negligible. Whereas now, wherever I travel to in the world, should there be a problem, which there has very, very rarely been, I could count that on the fingers of one hand in 20 years. There is always a Perazzi man there, and there is always somebody with spares, and it is normally fixed within, unless it's a stock failure or something like that, a cracked stock, which is no fault of the gun. You know, a mechanical issue can be fixed in a minute space of time, and you're back shooting the gun in the competition again, which for me, where one or two targets make such a difference, is a vital part of my shooting.
I think that, you know, for me, I've been, you know, fortunate to go to the factory myself 2 or 3 times now, and to actually see the infrastructure that they've got there, how professional they are, you know, and to stand on that counter and watch the people, the skills that they do, you know, watching the people, the girls checkering the forehands and everything else is incredible. You can tell the actual, you know, the attention to detail, even the fact that everywhere is absolutely so clean. It's incredible.
Yeah, and you know, I would reiterate that the thing about the factory for me, and I always use it if anybody says to me, "What's it like going to the factory?" 2 things. You've mentioned one of them, the checkering girls. They are incredible because it's all done on line of sight.
Yeah.
There is no pencil drawings done on it at all. It is all done off feel on their eyesight, which to me, how they get it that good is unbelievable. And I always talk about when you go to somewhere that is very, very special in the fact that it's a machinery-based company. So, you know, they're doing a lot of tooling work, they're doing bluing barrels, it's all metal work, woodwork, that sort of thing. And yet still, you could eat your lunch off the floor.
Yeah, 100%.
And that, for me, is a big thing.
And the area that you know, if you go over, if anybody's got the chance ever to go and have your dream gun built, don't hold back, you know, get what you want, choose what barrel length, choose what bead, you know, you've got absolutely every conceivable, it's your gun, you have what you want. You know, have a couple of days out there, and, you know, we all know Italian food is amazing. Go and find a nice hotel, somewhere to take your partner, and you know, and it's very accessible and easy. I mean, obviously the factory's back open. I'm sure Tim's going to tell you all about that, and to be interested to see how they're getting on with production now.
Bow.
Whether you look forward to it or not, I don't know. I don't know whether, you know, defending, you go in there and you've got to defend something, or whether you just go in and attack. Onwards and upwards, as they say.
I'm delighted, everybody, to welcome Tim Hill onto the show. Tim has taken over from Phil Unwin at RUAG. What's your exact job description down there, Tim?
Well, the official title is Perazzi Manager UK, or UK Perazzi Manager. Obviously, it still comes under the umbrella of RUAG, who are the importer. But because Perazzi is such a large brand and involved brand in the UK, it requires somebody to look after it, one person to look after it on a permanent basis. So that's what I'm doing. So
you're just in charge of Perazzi stuff. You don't have anything to do with RUAG at all. As in, you're part of the company, but you don't do day-to-day dealings with rifles and ammunition and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, as a rule, no. But I mean, obviously, when I'm with a dealer, Chris Potter, not so long ago, for example, before the lockdown, he'll say to me, I want to order this, that, and the other, bit of ammunition, maybe the odd rifle or something. So obviously, I will do that. I'm not going to say no, I'm not going to do it. But my official role, which I'm employed, by RUAG for, which was taken over from Phil's role, is to handle Perazzi in its entirety in the UK.
And what have you been? So obviously, being sort of relatively new in that role within that sphere, and then this happening, what have you been up to?
What, in the gun trade, or
oh, no, not in the gun trade, but as in you were relatively new to the Perazzi side of the RUAG job when COVID-19 hit.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. So, what did it? We shut down towards the end of March. I think it was the 26th or something like that. I can't remember exactly. And for that period through until the 6th of May, when Perazzi came back, because obviously remember with this this COVID-19, they're about a month ahead of us. So they came, actually the factory opened on the 6th of May. So I went back on the 6th of May, obviously to handle any sort of ongoing queries and questions that Perazzi might have. But between shutting down till the 6th of May, I was furloughed like most of the country.
Yeah.
But it's been quite
spare time.
Spare time.
Well,
as much as
I've got to tell you, for me, it was spare time for the first 4 or 5 weeks. I thought it was the best thing that's ever happened.
Well, it was like being retired.
God, and now I could literally climb up a wall.
I know it's quite exciting. It's looking like it's going to get back to a bit of normality by the middle of this month. But I mean, I stalk quite a bit. I like my stalking, which has been nice because the weather's been great. The evenings have been lovely. The mornings have been lovely. So we've been quite lucky on that front. And fishing, something that I do a lot of. Fly fishing. I fish on the Wiley and the Nadder. Do a bit on the Test as well, luckily. And shooting when the game season's on. I don't shoot clays as a rule. I never really have done. I do a few, sim days and a few sort of friends' farms, straw bale shoots, that sort of thing. But I don't do a lot of clay shooting. That and decorating, I think, was the one thing I seemed to be roped into in the first couple of weeks of lockdown.
And did you have how long a changeover did you have with when you took on the role from Phil? Because I've been dealing with Phil ever since I came on board in 2000, and he knew the family and the product and everything inside out. It must have been a very good learning curve with you to work with him for a bit before you take it on.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Phil was an encyclopedia of anything Perazzi wise. He's probably seen it and done it and experienced it. So I joined in the October. It was about October the 4th or 5th, 2019, and worked with Phil right the way through until he officially retired at the end of January 2020. So I shadowed him for that period of time because it's such an in-depth product that the variations, as you well know, when you go to the factory, you know, Mauro likes to pride himself on really being able to give the shooter absolutely what they want, you know, without question. You know, whether it's, you know, barrel lengths down to, you know, centimeters, or trigger pulls, or engraving, or stock dimensions, profiles, designs, the whole lot. So there are many different, you know, sort of connotations of what you can order, and it's very in depth, and every order is different. And that's the thing. It's not like ordering something that comes out of a machine where it's, you know, a 30-inch multi-choke. You know, every order is just slightly different. The stock dimensions are different. You know, the wood quality or grade is different. So, you know, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. But actually, you know, if you follow, Phil described it to me like a box of Lego, and actually it's quite a good way of looking at it, that you can build what you like out of it. But it's in depth. It's in depth.
I'm sure. And Brescia obviously being one of the hardest hit regions in Italy in their pandemic. How has it hit the factory, and what's the news coming out of there?
Yeah, well, obviously that area, as you quite rightly say, was the sort of epicenter, really. Bergamo, which is obviously where most, if you fly in there, and you've done it many times, I'm sure, you generally fly into Bergamo Airport, which is where they had a lot of the main, you know, infections to start with. And you know, the factory itself, from what I understand, you know, they closed completely. You know, I think it was sort of the early part of March. I think Mauro and Fabrizio continued to go into the factory to do administrative work, etc. But the whole place shut down like we did. I get the impression that the Italian government hasn't been particularly forthcoming. You know, I think we've been very lucky, although some people may disagree, but I think we've been very lucky in the way the government has supported businesses and people and got behind it, and, you know, as best as they can, support people. I think that in Italy it's not quite been the same. I think that they've promised a lot and nobody's really seen a huge amount. So I think that's been challenging. I don't know how, you know, Mauro, I think, has had to keep things going very much out of his own pocket to a degree. So I think they're just keen to get back and you know, get to earning some money, keep the thing going, because obviously it's a pretty big sort of engine to feed Perazzi. You know, there's a lot of staff there. They don't make a huge number of guns in comparison to somebody like Beretta.
Which is that's also why the price is a you know, it would be higher than a, you know, mid-range normal bog standard gun, is because they're not producing many and they're hand finishing every single part of that. Absolutely.
I always encourage people to, you know, there's one or two very good videos on YouTube of showing you what goes on in the factory. You know, the amount of hands-on finishing and construction of the guns is incredible, and people don't realise, you know, the barrels really are handmade. They're put together entirely by hand. You know, the stocks, although they're CNC machined out, roughed out by a CNC machine, the whole of the rest of the process is all done by hand, all the fitting and everything. Obviously the engraving's all done by hand, you know. So exactly, you know, that's why they are the price that they are, because there's a huge amount of hand finishing and that sort of thing involved with the gun.
And like anything, hand finishing involves time. And
time. It does. Yeah, I mean, you know, you look at you know, you can compare it to cars. You know, you look at something like a Morgan, which is made entirely by hand, and compare it to, you know, a sports car made by Mitsubishi or something. You know, they both do the similar job, but one is made by hand to what the customer wants, you know, and you pay for that. That's how it works.
Absolutely. And talking of which, that leads me on to my next question, which is, an average wait time would be roughly 10 months for a new gun from literally sending the personalised form back to receiving your gun would be probably 10 months, I would say. And how do you see that panning out now after the pandemic with regards to time and where they're at with the factory and everything else? Do you think it'll stay the same?
I think so. I mean, it's the engraving obviously is the thing that can take the time. If you're looking at MX12s or MX2000s or Hightechs, there's not a huge amount of engraving on those guns. So, they are around about 10-month lead time. Once you start to get into sort of SC3, SCO side plates, you're pushing on 12, 15 months, sometimes 18 months. And especially if you're looking at smaller calibers, 28 bores and 410s, because the production of that is much smaller. So I think they try and collate a few orders together in that caliber to make a run of them with the machinery, because obviously they have to change a lot of the machinery to make the smaller calibers. Yeah. So I hope it doesn't extend out any further. I don't see any reason why it should, especially if perhaps they work through the summer. So, but we'll see. I don't know. Marrow hasn't suggested that waiting times have been extended at all.
And I know we briefly touched on it earlier when we were having a chat between us. You think that they may work through August, whereas predominantly every year they would shut down from the 1st of August till the 31st of August. Italy normally, most of Europe normally shuts down. You think they may, because of the time that's been lost this year, they may work through it?
I think there's a strong possibility that they will. I did ask Marrow the question a couple of days ago, and he was unsure. He's going to make a decision based on how things are running at the end of this month. But I have a feeling that they will, whether they operate a split system or a shift system or whatever, I think they will keep production going through August.
Yeah.
I think there's quite a lot of catching up to do. I mean, they've lost the best part of certainly a good 2 months, if not 2.5 months of production.
Yeah.
So
I had a question from a friend of mine today who was interested in a side-plated Hightech.
Right. Okay. Is
there any plans for something like that, or?
No. I have asked Marrow about side-plated Hightechs or SCO grade Hightechs. He said no, because of the frame size doesn't lend itself to a side-plated gun. In his opinion, in his words, it would look a little ugly because of the depth of the action. Yeah. So the plate itself would be quite wide at the start of it, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
He thinks that aesthetically it wouldn't look right. So there are no plans, sadly, for your friend.
I'm be quite happy to tell you no problem at all.
Hightech.
And then the other thing is that obviously they were launching the 2020 Hightech this year.
Yeah.
Cover the 2020 Olympic Games.
Exactly.
We've now gone to 21.
Yeah.
And there is certain question marks over that next year.
Well,
so are they still going to launch the 2020, or has it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just very unfortunate what's happened. I mean, we've sold some 2020s. We've got them in production for various clients. There's a few customers have already had them. They're coming out with a couple of new colours for the side plates. If anyone's not particularly aware of a 2020, there's lots of pictures on the internet, but it's a Perazzi logo 2020, but the actual Perazzi and the 2020 are slightly raised off the surface of the side plate and highlighted and polished. So you've got a black background with a satin black highlighted text area on top. You've got that in silver, and they're also doing it in gold. You know, just again, as you say, it was all aimed at the Olympics, which is unfortunate, but there's nothing we can do about that. They're not going to stop production. They're not going to relaunch it as the 2021 or the 2022. It will be the 2020. You know, it just is unfortunate. I don't know whether that's going to affect people's purchasing of the gun, because obviously the 2020 Olympics isn't happening, but
might make them collector's items.
It may well do. You know, the opposite may happen. So, as I say, we've sold quite a few already, you know, they're the first ones are starting to come through. I think the very first one that I saw was about February time that come through for up at Bywell, but a few others have got them coming through as soon as they catch up with the production. But it's been very successful, you know, around the world.
And what have you got any, you know, plans that you want to bring in, or ideas that you want to bring in, or has Perazzi got any new designs that they want to, you know, put out into the market this coming year or whatever?
I think the system works very, very well, probably as it is. You know, the thing that people love about, you know, ordering a Perazzi or the process is the whole. First of all, is the fact that it doesn't matter whether you order the very sort of entry level gun that they produce or whether you order the most expensive gun they produce. You can have the stock made, fitted to you and made for you at the factory at no extra charge. It's part of the service, and people love that, and they love going out to the factory, and they love experiencing that whole you know, Italian Brescia, you know, the location of the factory, the shooting range at the back of the factory, the pattern plating, the fitting of the gun, the choosing of the wood in the wood store, you know, going over to Mama's over the road and having lunch, and the whole thing. And I think that works very, very well. I don't know of any other manufacturer. I know all the other manufacturers do factory visits, but I think Perazzi encourage it. They like that. It's part of the service. It is. You know, I was watching a program the other day where people go and, you know, if you want to go and order a Lamborghini or a Maserati, you go over there and you pick the leather color that you want, the color of the paintwork that you want, the color of the interior. You know, it seems to be on high-end Italian products like Perazzi and some of the car products, etc., that's how they seem to like to operate, and it fits very well.
Wouldn't be any good for me. I couldn't get into either of them. I can't get into the Perazzi clothing, let alone a Lamborghini.
Well, that is slightly ridiculous. Yeah,
that is one thing you are going to need to change.
Yeah, no, quite right. I have already spoken to Maro about that. I said, you know, we're not all the same size as Maro, and I think a UK large is about an Italian double XL. So it doesn't.
Believe me, he sent me some stuff one day, and I've got a feeling I finished up using it as a glove because it's
you got one leg.
That was it. Over, let alone anyway. Let's not worry about that. So, well, that's really good news. Now, obviously, you will be dealing with the dealers. You don't deal direct yourself. If you want to order one, you have to go through a main dealer.
Yeah.
And you know, basically, we're back on track. And you're going to be, so if anybody gets any problems through their main dealer, you'll be the go-to man that will deal with any problems or whatever.
Yeah, I mean the customer, the dealer's customer, that generally their point of contact will be the dealer that they've ordered the gun through. But you know, we will sort out any problems if there are any. Hopefully, there aren't too many problems. It's always an expectation with Perazzi, you know, people. It's why I don't like to give people, or the customers don't, you know, I don't encourage them to give them too keener delivery date. You know, we want to give a service, and you want to say, look, it's going to be ready in 6 months. It might be ready in 6 months, but you know, the anticipation's there, and people want the product. And you know, the worst thing to do is to give them a time and obviously miss that slot. So you know, other than that, you know, as long as we've got all the details correct, and you know, the stocking dimensions, etc., correct, then there shouldn't, you know, there really aren't that many problems, to be honest.
And just finishing off, a couple of little things.
Yeah.
Perazzi Grand Prix this year, is that still going ahead, or has it been cancelled? Or
Been cancelled, I'm afraid. Yeah. It's a shame, because obviously it's closing.
Yeah.
And it would have been lovely to have had that there for the last time for them. But I've been told it's been cancelled. Whether they change their mind at some point, it's possible. I don't know how quickly. You know, the problem being we've got at the moment is people can't stay away from home. No. So if you've got to travel, you know, unless you sleep in the car, I don't even know whether you're allowed to do that. There's some uncertainty with that. But at the moment, what they are saying is you cannot stay away from home. So that really does put the sort of stops on being able to do anything. Because I mean, obviously the Churchill World Sporting was on this week. Was it this week? This weekend? Coming up? I can't remember.
No, it was started. Yeah, I would have been there. My diary was setting all this week with the competition all next week.
Exactly. Yeah. So you know,
I mean, in Wales, you could live 15 miles away in Wales, and it'd still take you a day and a half to get there.
Yeah, it is a bit like that. Certainly that, where, you know, near Casous, where the shooting ground is, it's very. You're absolutely right. It's not easy to get to.
No,
it really isn't.
Fabulous ground and a really top class event.
Yeah,
Jonathan and the team ran a brilliant event down there for the last 2 or 3 years. I've really enjoyed going there, but it is a fact. I mean, it's 8 hours.
Oh, it is. I mean, even the people that live in Wales say, you know, to get to that part of Wales is a real pain, because you've got.
Sorry, has anybody thought of taking it somewhere different next year? Are there plans in place to keep it going, or?
Yeah, definitely. I think we need to have an event like that. I think it's hugely important for shooting, and I think it's hugely important for the brand. And I think Marrow would be looking, you know, for us to keep that going. I have been approached by a couple of people that want to take it on. So it will happen next year for sure. Where the location will be at the moment, I'm not 100%, but it will happen next year.
Perfect. And then just finally, are you going to be doing the Phil Unwin job round the major shoots? You know, when we get back to that, you're going to be taking the booth round and meeting and greeting and everybody else. So, you know, people looking at this now know that the face is going to be there, so they can come and see you and have a chat one-to-one, and you know.
Absolutely, yeah, that's the plan. I had them all booked in for this year. You know, all the events at Coley's and Churchill's, and obviously the Grand Prix and a few other places as well, and obviously the big one at Bywell, the World DTL. So hopefully they'll all be happening next year, and I'll be there waving the Perazzi flag.
Brilliant. Well, let's hope it continues, and let's hope that one, they didn't lose any people out of the factory.
No, they didn't. By the way, cutting across you, George. No, I asked Marrow, touch wood, nobody's been affected in the factory. Nobody's died. You know, they've been lucky, especially in the region that they were in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's fantastic news in itself. I know how badly the whole region's been hit, and the gun making trade in itself, because, you know, a lot of people don't know, but the heart of the gun making trade is in Brescia.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, most of the fine Italian guns are all produced within a small region, a few square miles. So let's hope that the industry gets back on its feet over there quickly, and we can all start enjoying the products that they've produced for us for a long time.
Quite right. Yeah, quite right. I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will.
Well, look, thanks for coming on. You've cleared up a few things. Hopefully people watching this will now see that Prats is up and running, and you know, if they need to contact anybody, they can speak to you via their dealer, and we will no doubt catch up when things become a little easier.
No doubt.
Take care.
Right.
Thanks very much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks very much indeed.